Whispers of Mockery Under the Mediterranean Sun. October 23, 1942. 9:40 p.m. The ink-black void above the Qattara Depression. No moon to betray the silhouettes of 882 guns, British, Australian, New Zealand, South African, crouched like predators in the sand. A private in the 50th Division, Tommy Ellis, wipes sweat from his brow, the air thick as boiled wool despite the chill creeping in from the sea. His fingers tremble on the lanyard. "Steady, lads," whispers his sergeant, voice lost in the collective breath-holding of 195,000 men. Then, crack. The first shell screams skyward, a comet's tail of fire, and the world erupts. You can almost taste the cordite, sharp as rust on your tongue, as the barrage hammers down 4,500 tons of high explosive in the first 5 hours, turning the Axis lines into a cauldron of flame and dust. Trenches buckle like wet cardboard. An Italian conscript, barely 20, named Luigi Rossi, claws at the earth in his foxhole near Kidney Ridge, his Fiat Ansaldo tank a twisted skeleton yards away. The ground heaves, vomiting sand into his mouth. "Madonna mia," he gasps, but the roar swallows prayer and panic alike. This is no skirmish, this is the hammer falling. But how did it come to this? How did the men who once toasted their triumphs with Chianti now huddle like ghosts, waiting for the end? Flashback 3 months. July 1, 1942. The sun-baked villa outside Tobruk, Libya. Dust devils dance across the cracked terrace where Axis High Command has gathered for a rare moment of respite. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox himself, leans against a pillar, his eyes shadowed under the brim of his cap, nursing a glass of warm lemonade. He's thinner now, the malaria gnawing at his edges, but his voice still cuts like a panzer's tread. Around the table, Italian generals, men like Lieutenant General Giuseppe Mancinelli and General Ettore Bastico, the portly overseer from Rome, raise their glasses. The air smells of olive oil and overripe figs, mingled with the faint tang of gunpowder from the recent rout at Gazala. "To the Inglesi," Bastico chuckles, his mustache twitching like a caterpillar on a hot stone. The word drips with disdain. Inglesi, the English, those tea-sipping shopkeepers who'd been chased across 400 miles of desert like jackals from a kill. Mancinelli joins in, his laugh a bellow that echoes off the whitewashed walls. "The desert rats, bah, rats, they are scuttling in their burrows, nibbling at crumbs. Remember Tobruk, we cracked their siege like an egg." He slaps the table, sending a ripple through the half-empty bottles of vermouth. The other Italians, colonels from the Ariete Division, majors fresh from the Brescia, nod and guffaw, their uniforms starched but stained with the perpetual grit of North Africa. Rommel doesn't laugh. He sips, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the Mediterranean laps like a promise unkept. He knows the rats better than these peacocks and epaulets. The 7th Armored Division, those sun-blackened Tommies in their honeycomb caps, had bloodied his panzers at Knightsbridge, turned his flanks at the Gazala line with nothing but grit and grants. "Gentlemen," he says quietly, "the 8th Army is no rabble. Montgomery has arrived." The name hangs there, heavy as an 88 shell. Bernard Montgomery, the pipe-smoking bulldog from Cairo who'd taken command just weeks before. The Italians wave it off. "Monty, a schoolmaster with a mustache," Bastico sneers. "He'll drill them into the sand, mark my words. Our Littorio awaits 88 tanks fresh from Turin, and the Falgor paratroopers, lions of the desert." You can picture it, the clink of glasses, the haze of cigarette smoke curling like false confidence. These men, heirs to Caesar's legions, see the British through the lens of their own faded glory. Mussolini's boasts echo in their ears, 250,000 troops hurled at Egypt in 40, only to be shattered by O'Connor's 30,000 at Badafam. But now they've tasted victory. Tobruk fallen in 240 days of siege. The Union Jack hauled down. Alexandria's spires glinting on the horizon, ripe for the taking. The Italians, once the junior partners in this Africa Corps marriage, swagger like equals. "The rats flee before us," a young captain from the Trieste Division boasts, mimicking a scurrying rodent with his fingers. Laughter swells again, drowning the distant rumble of supply trucks grinding through the salt flats. Yet beneath the mirth, cracks spiderweb the facade. Rommel paces the terrace later, alone as the sun dips blood-red. His aides whisper of shortages, fuel siphoned by U-boat sinkings, ammunition trickling from Benghazi like sand through a sieve. The Italians' M1340 tanks, laughable tin cans against the new American Shermans filtering into Montgomery's lines. Bastico's reports from Rome paint a rosy picture, but Rommel knows. 100,000 Axis troops face 200,000 allies, dug in at El Alamein like ticks on a hound. The Qattara Depression to the south, a vast impassable sinkhole of salt and mirage, bottlenecks their advance. No flanking miracle here. Just a 40-mile front of minefields, barbed wire and concrete devil's gardens that Montgomery's sappers are even now fortifying. Cut to Alamein Station, midnight of that July night. A British signals officer, Captain David Sterling, the ghost of the SAS, raiding behind lines like a desert djinn, overhears an Italian patrol boasting in broken English. "Your rats run home to mama," one jeers before Sterling's knife silences him. The words linger, fuel for the fire. In Cairo, Montgomery pores over maps by lamplight, his beret tilted just so, pipe clenched like a talisman. "Gentlemen," he tells his corps commanders Horrocks, Lees, Freyberg, "we end the fox here, no retreat, no mercy." The 8th Army swells, 1,029 tanks to Rommel's 547, 1,451 guns to their 1,219. Spitfires rule the skis, pounding the Mareth line supply routes. By August, the Axis push stalls at Alamein Ridge. Rommel's 6 days race, a desperate lunge for the coast, fizzles in dust and wrecks. His panzers bog in the soft sand, picked off by Grant tanks lurking like scorpions. Italian infantry, the Pavia and Folger, hold the line with bayonets and balls, but the toll mounts, 1,750 German dead, 6,000 Italian. Rommel retreats bloody to El Alamein. Bastico cables Rome, the enemy is brittle. One more shove, but in the mess tents, the laughter thins. A colonel from the Bolzano division stares at his cards, unmoving. What if Monty doesn't break? September bleeds into October. The desert wind howls like a banshee, whipping Khamsin sand into eyes and lungs. Rommel, bedridden in a field hospital, receives Hitler's wire. Victory or Siberia? He returns gaunt to a force stretched taut, Italians manning the northern salient, Germans the south, all praying for Stalingrad's diversion to pull Allied eyes east. Bastico hosts one last dinner at Burg El Arab, toasts flowing freer than fuel. "To the rat's grave," he proclaims, clinking with Mancinelli. The room erupts, but Rommel slips away early, staring at reconnaissance photos, endless lines of Allied trucks, Monty's double dummy tanks fooling Luftwaffe spotters. A chill grips him deeper than fever. And then on the 23rd, as the clock strikes 9:40 p.m., the world ends for Luigi Rossi in his foxhole. The barrage walks north methodically, 1,000 shells a minute pulverizing the Miteria Ridge. Italian 75 guns spit defiance, but they're drowned in the storm. Rommel in his command caravan grabs the field phone. "Bastico, pull back the Littorio now," but the line crackles dead. In the chaos, a Folger lieutenant rallies his men. For the Duce, hold the ridge. They charge into the maelstrom, grenades in hand, only to vanish in the flash and fury. As the first wave of Highlanders and Yorkshires breaches the Devil's Gardens, bayonets fixed, the laughter of July echoes hollow. What hubris blinded them? And as Montgomery's sappers mark the paths through the mines, white tape fluttering like surrender flags, one question burns brighter than the flares. Will the desert fox slip his noose, or will the rats finally feast? The Foxhole Inferno. Dawn hasn't broken, but the sky over Miteria Ridge glows like a forge, orange veins pulsing through the smoke. October 24, 1942, 2:13 a.m. Private Tommy Ellis, his ears ringing from the barrage's dying thunder, stumbles forward with the 2nd Battalion, Royal Scots Fusiliers. The air hums with the whine of bullets, Italian bradas chattering from ruined sangers, tracer rounds stitching the dark like fiery seams. His boot snags on a tripwire, he dives face first into sand that tastes of brass and blood. "Keep low, you daft bugger," his corporal hisses, dragging him up. Ahead, the white tapes guides through the minefield, snake like veins into the heart of hell. One wrong step and the earth claims you. You can feel the grit grinding between your teeth, the pulse hammering in your throat as the infantry creeps on bellies, bayonets scraping rock. The 9th Australian Division leads here, ghosts from Tobruk's fall, their slouch hats low under the stars. Lieutenant Colonel Alan Huggins, face blackened with boot polish, whispers orders, "Fix bayonets, no firing till we're on 'em." They've breached the outer crust, 1,000 yards of tape-laid paths, sappers crawling ahead with Bangalore torpedoes blasting gaps in the wire. But the Axis isn't broken, not yet. From the ridge's crest, a Folgore paratrooper, Sergeant Marco Vidal, peers through his periscope, his elite unit, Italy's pride, jump boots still dusted from Sicily, clinging to the escarpment like burrs. Avanti. He snarls to his squad, 12 men with Carcano rifles and a single Breda 37 machine gun. The barrage lifted too soon, they think. Monty's gamble. Back in the command dugout at Tel El Isa, Lieutenant General Giuseppe Mancinelli hunches over a trestle table, his tunic unbuttoned, sweat beading on his balding pate. Maps flutter in the fan's feeble breeze, marked with red pins where the rats have poked through. Bastico's voice crackles over the radio from Axis HQ. "Hold the line, Giuseppe, the Tommies tire at dawn." Mancinelli nods, but his fingers drum the wood. The laughter of July feels like a lifetime ago. His Trieste division, poor bloody infantry from the Veneto farms, has taken the brunt. 47 anti-tank guns uprooted, Beretta SMGs jamming in the sand. Reports flood in, Miteria penetrated, request Panzer support. But Rommel's 15th Panzer is a shadow, 174 Mark IIIs low on fuel, engines coughing like consumptives. "Send the Littorio," Mancinelli orders, his voice steady as he lights another cigarette. The heavy tanks, hulking beasts with 47 cannons, rumble south from their lager, treads chewing the coastal track. The assault unfolds in fits and starts, a brutal chess game under the wheeling stars. At Kidney Ridge, the New Zealand 2nd Division, Maori and Pakaha shoulder to shoulder, storms the bottle-shaped spur with Grenadier Guards in tow. Captain Charles Upham, that lion from Crete, VC Twicearn, leads from the front, pistol blazing as he vaults a trench. "Come on, you blighters," he roars, his voice raw over the din. Mortars whoop like banshees, 3-inch Vickers thumping from the rear. An Italian counterattack surges, Bologna Division lads, faces pale under their Adrian helmets, charging with fixed bayonets and cries of "Savia!" They collide in a tangle of steel and screams, Upham's men hurling Mills bombs into the melee. Blood soaks the sand black. A Kiwi private, Gutshot, clutches his Haka charm and whispers a Karakia before the light fades. Rommel in his forward op, a camouflaged van atop a rise near City Abdel Rahman, watches through binoculars, the fever sweat cold on his skin. His Chief of Staff, General Siegfried Westphal, murmurs updates. Aussies on the ridge, Herr Feldmarschall, losses mounting, Falgor down to half strength. Rommel's jaw tightens. He knows these paratroopers, fanatics forged in the Libyan dust, holding with grenades and bare hands. But the math is merciless. Montgomery's crumbling operations, nibbling attacks to wear them down, have already cost 300 Axis dead in the first night. Luftwaffe Stukas scream in, bombs walking the lines, but hurricanes from 239 wing pounds shredding them mid-dive. A pilot's canopy shatters, silk blooms white against the flames. By midday, the sun claws over the horizon, baking the dead where they lie. Tommy Ellis, bandaged hasty on his arm from shrapnel, shares a bully beef tin with his mate amid the Yorkshire's consolidation. The air shimmers with heat, mirages dancing off wrecked Fiat 2000s, monstrous relics from the Great War, their 65 guns silent now. Cheers ripple up the line. The Aussies have Kidney pushing probes toward the box, that 6,000-yard salient of minefields and strongpoints guarding Rommel's flank. But victory tastes of ash. Casualties mount 1,800 British in the first 24 hours, medics wheeling them back on Bren carriers, moans carried on the wind. Mancinelli, packing his bunker, receives the Littorio's report. Engaged at close range, Sherman fire fatal. The Italian heavies, brave but blindsided by the new 75 armed Grants lurking in wadis, brew up one by one. A tank commander, Capitano Rossi, no kin to young Luigi, bails from his turret, uniform ablaze, only to be cut down by a Tommy Sten. "Maledetti," Mancinelli mutters, slamming a fist on the radio. Bastico calls again, voice-edged. "Rome demands a counteroffensive, use the Ariete." The Armored Division 144 M1340s, semovents with 75 howitzers, musters at the railhead, engines idling like impatient stallions. Generals in Rome, safe in the Quirinal, wire praise, crush the Anglo-Saxon horde. But here in the cauldron, doubt festers. A captured Tommy, interrogated under the palms, spits defiance. "Monty's got more where that came from. You're done, mate." As dusk falls on the 25th, the second night's barrage ignites, 1000 guns again walking the fire onto the infantry boxes. Highlanders of the 51st Division, pipers skirling Highland laddie to unnerve the foe, surge toward Snipe Hill. The Falgor vital among them digs in deeper, rationing water from their goatskins, eyes hollow but unyielding. "For Patria," he tells his last 5 men as the shells crater the earth around them. Rommel orders a riposte, 90 panzers with Italian remnants to pinch off the salient. Dawn of the 26th sees them clash, 88 flak guns barking from hull-down positions, ripping through Crusader eyes like paper. A Sherman commander, Lieutenant Michael Whitman, the German ace's years from Tiger fame here, but his ilk, sights a Mark IV and fires, boom. The British tank erupts, crew tumbling out, one dragging a mate clear. The battle seesaws, a grinder of flesh and steel. Montgomery in his caravan at Berg el Arab sips tea and nods to his aide. "Good, let the fox bleed." His plan unfolds like clockwork, feints north to draw reserves, hammer blows south. By the 27th, the box crumbles, Australians seize it, turning the flank. Mancinelli's lines fray, Trieste falling back, leaving 500 dead. Bastico in a frenzy commits the Falgor reserves, another 1,000 elite, but they're fed into the maw piecemeal. Vital's squad holds a Sanger till noon, then silence. Rommel, popping sulfa pills against the dysentery, stares at the maps. Supply convoys sunk off Tobruk, 90% of his fuel gone. "We fight with what we have," he tells Westphal, but his eyes betray the lie. Night of the 28th brings no respite. The barrage rolls again heavier, probing for the armor. Tommy Ellis, numb now to the fear, loads his Bren. "This is for Tobruk, lads." As the panzers countercharge, dust plumes rising like genies, the question hangs, sharper than bayonets. Can the Italians' pride stem the tide, or will Monty's iron snap the Axis spine for good? Steel rain and shattered illusions. October 29, 1942, 4:47 a.m. The coastal plain east of Ruwaysat Ridge. A Mark III Panzer, its long 15 gun probing the Merc, lurches through a defile of shattered palms commanded by Oberleutnant Hans von Luck Rommel's firebrand from the 21st Panzer. The engine growls, a beast denied its kill, as dawn's first blush stains the horizon crimson. Inside, the air reeks of sweat and overheated oil. The loader heaves another shell home with a metallic clank. "Eyes sharp!" von Luck snaps into the intercom, his voice a whip-crack over the tread's rattle. Scattered ahead, the hulks of Italian Semovent 75-18 smolder, self-propelled guns that charged nobly the night before, only to be outranged by lurking Matildas. Now it's the Panzer's turn to riposte, 50 of them in wedge formation, with 30 M13s from the remnants of Ariete limping alongside like wounded wolves. You can hear the desert's deceitful hush, broken only by the distant cough of idling diesels as von Luck's column crests the rise. Then thump! A 75 round from a hidden Sherman punches through the lead Panzer's glacis plate, flames belch skyward, the turret hatch blowing like a champagne cork. "Ambush!" von Luck bellows, swiveling his turret left, too late. The British 23rd Armoured Brigade, 132 tanks strong under Brigadier George Brighty, uncoils from their hull-down lairs in the wadis, Churchills and Crusaders surging forward in a thunder of tracks. Tracers lash the air like vengeful hornets, a Semovent erupts, its crew spilling out, one Italian gunner dragging his burned comrades screaming "Aqua! Aqua!" into the sand. In the swirling dust of the tank duel, illusions shatter like glass. Mancinelli, chain-smoking in his forward CP, a tent lashed to a staff car near Hill 102, clutches the field telephone as reports cascade. Ariete engaged, losses 40%, request infantry support. His face, once ruddy with wine and wit, is ashen now, etched with the lines of a man watching his army bleed. The general's jests from Tobruk's fall replay in his mind, rats in the dunes, but these rats fight like devils, their new 6-pounder anti-tank guns barking from camouflaged pits, skewering Italian light tanks with contemptuous ease. Bastico's voice cuts through the static. "Commit everything, Giuseppe, the Duce watches from Rome." Mancinelli hesitates, glancing at the map where red arrows, his counteroffensive, now curl back like dying serpents. The Folgore, those airborne eagles, have held snipe and ring contour for 3 days on promises and spite, but their ammunition wagons lie gutted by RAF Mitchells, bombs cratering the supply road from Mersa Matra. The clash builds to frenzy by noon, a mechanical inferno where 200 tanks maul each other across 5 miles of churned earth. Von Luck's Panzer slews right, firing on the move, a glancing hit that spins a British Valentine like a top, its tracks shedding links in a spray of steel. But payback comes swift. An 88 towed gun manned by a Luftwaffe crew pressed into service, booms from a reverse slope position, coring a Sherman at 1,500 yards. The explosion lights the melee, shadows of twisted wreckage leaping long. An Ariete M13 commanded by Tenant Aldo Rossi, another thread in the Rossi tapestry of fate, buttons up as Grants close the noose. "Fuoco!" he yells, the 47 cracks, shattering a Crusader's optics. Cheers erupt in the turret, fleeting as a mirage before a flanking Matilda's 2-pounder rakes them, rounds pinging off armor like lethal hail. Rossi feels the hull shudder, smoke choking the vents. Bail out. He gasps, kicking the hatch, emerging into a world of fire and figures scrambling like ants from a kicked nest. Montgomery, ensconced in his HQ caravan dubbed Birdie for its periscopic views, watches the aerial photos develop under a shaded awning, tea steaming in his mug. "Splendid," he murmurs to Major General Francis de Guingand, his chief of staff, as the spots confirm the Axis armor mauled. 100 wrecks counted, panzers down to 120 runners. His left hook, the 9th Australian and 51st Highland Divisions grinding south, has carved a 6-mile dent in the line, while feints by the 50th Northumbrians pin the north. No grand breakthrough yet, this is attrition, patient as the Sphinx, bleeding Rommel dry. "Tell Freyberg to press the Folgore," Monty orders, tapping his pipe on the ashtray. "Those paratroops are the keystone." By evening, as the sun dips into the Katara's maw, the battlefield falls eerily still, save for the moans of the wounded and the crackle of dying fires. Tommy Ellis, promoted hasty to Lance Corporal for dragging a mate under fire, hunkers in a captured Italian Sanger, sharing a fag with an Aussie digger. The air hangs heavy with the stench of cordite and charred rubber. Overhead, flares pop like false stars, illuminating the detritus, bayonets bent, helmet stove in, a Folgore jump wing pinned to a rifle stock like a defiant badge. "Heard the Ities were laughin' at us back in July," the Aussie mutters, spitting tobacco juice. "Reckon they're smillin' now?" Ellis shakes his head, the weight of 2,500 British casualties pressing like the calm scene. But morale holds, letters from home, smuggled in with the tinned spam, whisper of wives and Blenheims over the Rhine. Rommel in his sickbed at the field lazaretto, fever raging, a doctor's hand on his pulse, receives the dispatches by runner. Westphal's note is blunt, armor crippled, Littorio annihilated, only 11 tanks operational, Italian morale cracking, desertions reported in the Bologna. Rommel's eyes, fever-bright, fix on the canvas ceiling. The man who danced through France now contemplates the abyss. Hitler's orders echo, stand and die. But the maps lie open on his lap, inked with retreat routes. Fuka the escarpment, a fighting withdrawal to the Mareth line in Tunisia. Bastico visits at dusk, his uniform rumpled, mustache wilted. Irwin we can hold. Rome sends more Semovent 75s, the new ones. Rommel turns away, the silence louder than any barrage. In private he pens a signal to OKW. Supply situation catastrophic, enemy superiority overwhelming. The words taste of defeat, but necessity steals them. Night of the 30th unleashes the storm anew. Monty's guns, 900 strong, thundering the Saturday night barrage to soften the pivot. Highlanders storm the Raman track, pipers drowned by the roar, while South Africans of the 4th Division probe the minefields with flamethrowers, turning Axis posts into pyres. Mancinelli rallies a final counter. Remnants of the 164th Light Division with Italian motorcycle scouts, charging on fumes and fury. They overrun a battery of 25-pounders, sabers flashing in the moonlight, old cavalry elan against modern murder, but RAF night fighters strafe them mercilessly, Beaufaitor's cannons chattering like typewriters. The assault dissolves in rout. Mancinelli, witnessing from afar, slumps against his staff car. "DOCIAUD," he whispers, the mockery of summer a ghost in his throat. As October bleeds into November's eve, the Axis line bows but holds barely. Rommel rises from his cot, gaunt as death, to tour the front. He finds the Folgore at their last stand on the escarpment, Colonel Luigi Crisara exhorting his 1,800 survivors. Not one step back. They nod, faces carved from the same unyielding stone. But in the rear, whispers spread. Fuel drums empty, rations down to mule jerky, the Luftwaffe a memory. A captured New Zealand signals log, smuggled through the lines, reveals Monty's intent. Breakthrough at dawn, armor to exploit. Rommel returns to his caravan, drafting the order that will brand him traitor in Hitler's eyes. Retreat. But as the first patrols of the 7th Armored, the desert rats themselves, honeycombed caps gleaming, scout the gaps, one dread lingers. Will the hammer fall before the fox can flee, or has El Alamein already forged the end? The Breaking Dawn. November 1st, 1942. 5:22 a.m. The Raman track, a vein of crushed coral snaking through the Axis rear. Sergeant Marco Vital of the Folgore, his jump smock torn, blood crusting his cheek from a near-miss shrapnel kiss, crouches in the last redoubt, a ring of sangers atop the escarpment. The air vibrates with the prelude to apocalypse. 1,000 Allied guns, from 25-pounders to Sexton self-propelled howitzers, tuning their throats in a low growl. Vital's men, 30 shadows down from 200, huddle around a single Hotchkiss, ammo belts draped like funeral shrouds. Water cans clank empty, they've licked dew from helmets since the 26th. Fratelli, Vital rasps, his voice a gravel whisper over the rising wine. Today we earn Valhalla. No laughter here, only the stark poetry of men who know the end's script. You can sense the Earth's tremor building, a subterranean heartbeat, as the dogfight barrage crashes down. 5 hours of hellfire, 150,000 shells marching like reapers across the 6-mile front. Concrete bunkers fracture, Italian 90 guns emplaced in the coastal batteries twist into scrap. In the maelstrom, Private Tommy Ellis, his platoon from the 5th Battalion Suffolk, waits in the assembly trenches, gas mask dangling like a noose. The ground bucks, flinging men like dolls. A mate beside him vanishes in a geyser of sand and screams. God Almighty, Ellis mutters, clutching his Lee Enfield till the stock bites his palm. When the iron rain lifts at 10:30 a.m., the 9th Australian Division erupts from their slits, slouch hats forward, Owen guns chattering, storming the gaps with the ferocity of lions loosed. Rommel, risen like Lazarus from his fever cot, stands in the command post at Jebel Hamza, binoculars to eyes, the wind whipping his greatcoat like a flag of defiance. His face is a mask of hollows, the blue eyes burning with the clarity of desperation. Westphal hands him the latest. Monty's XXX Corps through the minefields, Pavlov and February gaps breached, armor massing. Rommel nods, the weight of 30,000 Axis casualties these 12 days pressing on his shoulders. Mancinelli's Corps, Trieste, Bologna, remnants of the Littorio, clings to the coastal bulge like a drowning man to driftwood, but the Folgore's stand has bought time, costly as blood diamonds. Order the retreat, Rommel says finally, the word tasting of ash. Code word Theseus, fall back to Fuka, save what we can. Westphal salutes pale, the signal flies at noon, a death knell muffled in code. The breakthrough unleashes the hounds. At the head of the spear, the 7th Armored Division, the Desert Rats proper, 400 tanks and 3 brigades, roars through the corridors, honeycombed caps bobbing in open turrets. Brigadier John Jock Campbell, VC from the previous year's City Rezeg, leads the 7th Motor Brigade in his honey of a honey Stuart, shouting over the wireless, "Push, you bastards, the fox is running." Shermans and Cromwells bound over the dunes, 75 guns swiveling to hose down rearguards, Italian motorcycle battalions scattering like chaff, their Berettas popping futilely. A Folgore rearguard ambushes from a wadi, grenades arcing like fireflies pinning a squadron. But RAF Mustangs strafe them mercilessly, .50 calibers stitching the sand. Vitel's men melt away one by one till only echoes remain. Mancinelli in his fleeing staff car, a dusty Lancia bouncing over shell holes, grips the dash as the radio spits panic. Folgore surrounded, request air support. None comes, the Luftwaffe's 100 planes are ghosts, hammered by Spitfire sweeps. Bastico from the rear HQ at Daba cables Rome in frenzy. Hold at all costs, reinforcements en route from Tripoli. Lies all of it, U-boat losses have strangled the sea lanes. Axis supplies a trickle in the Nile's shadow. Mancinelli halts the car amid a convoy of refugees. Trucks laden with wounded Folgore paratroops marching afoot, jump boots dragging furrows in the dust. He steps out, lights a last cigarette, offers it to a lieutenant with eyes like shattered glass. "We fought well, figlio mio," he says, voice cracking. The young man nods but turns away, shouldering his Carcano toward the blue horizon. No boasts now, only the hollow ring of survival. By midday, the rats are unleashed in earnest, pursuit groups fanning 20 miles deep, cutting the coast road. At Galil, a running fight, 50th Division Infantry in half-tracks, mortars lobbing 3-inch smoke, flush out 185th Parachute Brigade holdouts. Captain Charles Upham, that indomitable Kiwi, vaults a burning Ariat wreck, Tommy gun blazing, dropping 3 Germans in as many heartbeats. "For the lads at Crete," he bellows as his men cheer, the desert blooming red. Casualties mount, Allied dead at 13,500 total, but the Axis tally soars, 30,000 prisoners already herded into cages, 500 guns spiked, 400 tanks smoldering pyres. Montgomery, packing his caravan, grins wolfish around his pipe. The enemy's on the run, no prisoners for the faint-hearted. His orders crackle out, exploit to the full, Benghazi by Christmas. Rommel's withdrawal unravels like a poorly knit scarf. At Fuca Airfield, pioneers torch 100 Ju-52's irreplaceable lifelines, black smoke pillars beckoning the RAF. The 15th Panzer von Luck's battered command among them screens the retreat, 88's dueling at long range with pursuing Grants. A shell shrieks, von Luck's Mark IV shudders, a track shot away. Dismount and fight. He roars, leading his crew on foot, MP-40s spitting into the dust cloud of 4th Light Brigade. They hold for an hour, buying the infantry the road before a flanking Valentine seals their fate. Boom, and the Fox's fang dulls another notch. Dusk of the 2nd paints the retreat in bloody hues. Vital, one of the Folgore's lucky damned, hitches a ride on a captured Bedford, his squad reduced to ghosts in his mind. "We held the ridge," he tells a German driver, voice distant. "Monty paid in blood," the man grunts, eyes on the mirrors where Allied headlights wink like pursuing eyes. In Cairo, Churchill cables praise, El Alamein turns the tide, Rommel in full flight. But for the men on the road, Italians cursing the Duce's folly, Germans stealing for Tunisia's next hell, the victory's echo is a dirge. Montgomery halts the pursuit at 10 p.m., consolidating the gains, 40 miles advanced, the Axis line of memory. Tommy Ellis, slumped in a slit trench off the track, shares a captured bottle of Chianti with his section, the wine tart as regret. To the Ides he toasts Riley, may their laughs haunt him. Laughter ripples, thin but real, the first in days. Overhead stars wheel indifferent, the Qattara Depression yawns south, a grave for hubris. Yet as Rommel's columns snake west toward Ajdabiya, 200 miles from safety, supply dumps ablaze behind them, the desert whispers unfinished business. Tunisia looms with fresh American boots landing at Torch. Has the fox truly slipped the noose? Or does El Alamein's shadow stretch long enough to choke the Axis dream entire? Echoes in the dust. November 3, 1942, 6:15 p.m. The coastal highway west of Sidi Barrani, a ribbon of rutted gravel choked with the detritus of empire. A Fiat 626 truck, its canvas flap torn like a beggar's cloak, grinds through the twilight, overloaded with 40 Folgore survivors, Vital among them, his arm slung in a strip of jump smock, staring at the receding pyres of El Alamein. The engine wheezes, starved for oil, as Bedouin shadows flit past on camels, silent witnesses to the Hejira. Overhead the drone of Blenheims grows, a hunting pack scenting blood. "Faster, porca miseria," the driver curses, glancing in the mirror where Allied scouts prowl like jackals. A bomb whistles, the world tilts in fire and screams. Vital tumbles clear, rolling into a ditch, the acrid bite of high explosive painting his lungs black. When he rises, coughing, the truck is a gutted hulk, bodies strewn like discarded puppets. He shoulders a fallen comrade's rifle, the weight a bitter anchor, and trudges west alone. You can almost feel the desert's indifferent vastness closing in, the wind carrying whispers of what was. The general's toasts in Tobruk's shade, Chianti stained with overconfidence. Now those voices are ghosts, drowned in the rout. Rommel's Theseus has become a stampede, 104,000 Axis troops fleeing in columns 50 miles long. The 8th Army's vanguard nipping at heels with 4.5-inch mediums lobbing shells into the tail. At Mersa Matra, the rats overrun the airfield. 7th Armored's Honey Stewarts dart like ferrets, machine guns chattering, rounding up Luftwaffe ground crews who raise hands skyward, faces slack with the shock of the undone. Brigadier Pip Roberts, his face caked in victory's grime, halts his brigade amid the hangars. Secure the field. No looting. Churchill wants the headlines clean. But his men, hollow-cheeked from 13 days of slog, pocket watches and Lugers anyway, talismans against the next dawn. Montgomery, in the glow of his caravan's maplight, orchestrates the chase with the precision of a metronome. No overextension, he cautions de Guingamp, pipe wreathed in victory smoke. Let them run to the wire. His XXX Corps Horrocks armor and Lisa's infantry advances in bounds, 50 miles a day, leapfrogging through the Hafia Pass, where the hellfire minefields of 41 now claim their old masters. Captured documents spill secrets. Bastico's frantic cables to Rome, pleading for 200,000 reinforcements that will never sail. Manzanella's staff, fragmented in the chaos, surrenders en masse at Solemn. 2,000 officers and men, their Adrian helmets piled like offerings. The general himself, beard unkempt, steps from a wadi cave under white flag, eyes meeting those of a young major from the Durham Light Infantry. "Tell your Monty," Mancinelli says in accented English, "we laughed too soon." The major nods, no gloat in his voice, only the weariness of brothers in arms. "The desert humbles us all, sir." By the 6th, Benghazi falls without a shot, the port's cranes idle, Axis engineers having spiked the guns and fled inland. Tommy Ellis, riding shotgun in a captured Opel Blitz, watches the Union Jack hoist anew, the tricolor of Italy's folly furled forever here. His section loots a warehouse, tin sardines, Chianti cases, a gramophone blaring Verdi arias to the indifferent stars. To the laughs, he toasts again, but the wine sours on his tongue. The toll etches deep, 13,560 British dead or wounded, 2,350 missing, names like ghosts in the roll call. Yet the hall staggers, 30,000 prisoners, 1,000 guns, 500 tanks, 400 planes. The Desert Air Force, 1,000 sorties a day, has clawed the sky back, Stukas plummeting like fallen angels into the surf. Rommel, gaunt spectre in his command half-track, pushes west from Tobruk's ruins, the Afrika Korps a skeleton of its June glory, down to 37 panzers, fuel for 200 miles if rationed like breath. Westphal drives in silence, the radio spitting intercepts. Torch landings, Algiers, Iran, Casablanca, Americans ashore. Rommel's hand stills on the map. Tunisia, that narrow thumb of fate, now a vice, closing with Montgomery from the east and Patton's Yanks from the west. Hitler's rage crackles over the secure line. "Cowards, stand and fight!" But Rommel, voice steady as steel, replies, "Main Fura, the men are spent, El Alamein broke the back." The call ends, he stares at the compass, north to the sea where Kesselring's paratroops might yet bridge the gap. Bastico, trailing in a staff car, mutters to his aide, "The Duce, it will hang us all." No jests now, only the arithmetic of defeat. Italy's North African army, 130,000 strong in summer, reduced to 20,000 shadows. The pursuit crests at El Agheila on the 11th, Rommel's rearguards, von Luck's panzer grenadiers, Falgor diehards, forming a brittle crust on the salt flats. The rats probe not press, Montgomery halts, resupplying amid the palm groves, his beret cocked triumphant. In Cairo the bells toll, Churchill weeps open tears in Parliament, dubbing it the end of the beginning. Medals rain upon a third VC bar, though he shrugs it off with a grin. "Just doing my bit, sir." Vital, reunited with stragglers at a way station near Sirte, learns his regiment's end. 800 survivors of 5,000, the rest fertilizer for the ridge. He carves a cross on an ammo crate for the lost, whispering requiescat into the wind. No glory, only the stark truth, pride's price paid in full. As November's chill bites, the 8th Army licks wounds and regroups, eyes on Tripoli spires 800 miles distant. Rommel slips to Tunisia, a fox harried to his final earth where Arnhem's divisions wait and the Allies converge. Bastico cables Mussolini one last dispatch. The laughter died at Alamein. In Rome, the Duce paces the Palazzo Venezia, maps curling like accusations, unaware his African dream dissolves in the dunes' sigh. El Alamein, not just a battle, but a fulcrum. The Axis tide ebbs, the Mediterranean's hinge swings allied. The desert rats, once mocked vermin, emerge lions, their bite felt from the Atlantic to the Urals. And in the quiet after, as Tommy Ellis pens a letter home, "We gave him hell, love, coming back soon." The desert keeps its secrets, whispering of hubris humbled and the long road to Berlin just begun.